Welcome, welcome, welcome to Off the Edge Deep Dive, the podcast where we jump headfirst into the most thrilling, thought-provoking, and sometimes jaw-dropping topics with your hosts, Cal and Tam. Let's take a deep dive into science, technology, culture, and everything in between. No shallow waters here, folks. So buckle up, because we're about to push the boundaries and go off the edge.
All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something I think a lot of people are talking about. It's this whole Elon Musk and President-elect Donald Trump thing. We've got a couple articles here, one from the Mary Sue and one from NewsX. They both talk about how Musk might be influencing some of Trump's policies. There's also this interesting BBC piece that kind of looks at how Musk might be benefiting from this whole situation. So, like, what is the deal here? Are they really friends? Or is this a strategic alliance?
Yeah, it's weird, right? It feels like there's this undercurrent of unease, like something's just not quite right about this whole thing.
The Mary Sue article has this crazy AI image.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
It shows Musk sitting in the Oval Office. And get this, Trump is serving him like a waiter. I mean, come on.
It's funny, but also kind of scary. It's like this visual metaphor for the power imbalance. Musk has this huge platform on X, way bigger than Trump's, and he's not afraid to use it.
They quote Representative Dan Goldman in there. He straight up calls Musk President Elon Musk.
Seriously. I remember when Musk went after that spending bill on X. All of a sudden, Trump saying he opposes it too makes you wonder who's really calling the shots.
Right, and that spending bill is a whole other can of worms. NewsX goes into a lot of detail about the controversy. Cutting funding for child cancer research, that's causing some serious backlash.
Huge backlash, and rightfully so. Even some Republicans aren't happy about it. They're questioning Musk's involvement and how it's impacting things.
It's like we have this unelected billionaire.
Yeah.
And he might have more sway than some elected officials.
Yeah, it's kind of a scary thought, right? Like, are we heading towards a system where wealth equals power?
Okay, so we've got this power imbalance, this controversial spending bill. And then the BBC article, there's another wrench in the mix. They talk about how Musk could be benefiting from all of this.
Oh, yeah, like what?
Government contracts for SpaceX, less regulation for Tesla, and of course all those sweet tax cuts Trump keeps promising.
For corporations and the wealthy, right?
Exactly. So is Musk playing the long game here? Is this whole thing just about boosting his businesses?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely something to think about.
I mean, if that's true, then this isn't just about friendship or political strategy. It's about using political influence for personal gain.
Which raises a whole bunch of ethical questions, conflicts of interest and all that.
Right. Is this the kind of precedent we want to set in our democracy?
I mean, a slippery slope.
So we've got this whole mess of power, money, and potential conflicts of interest. But even if we ignore all that for a second, there's another layer to this whole thing, the personal relationship between Musk and Trump. Mary Sue calls it a bromance. But they also point out that it might not last.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jonathan Greenberg. He wrote a whole biography on Trump. He tweeted that this bromance will not have a happy ending.
Wow.
So is this friendship doomed to fail?
I mean, they're both known for being unpredictable, and they both have pretty big egos.
It's like a recipe for disaster, right?
Yeah. It wouldn't take much for things to go south.
So what do you think?
I think it's going to be a wild ride.
For sure. All right, so far in part one of our deep dive, we've talked about the power dynamics, the controversies, and the personal relationship between these two. But how is this all going to play out in the long run? And what does it mean for the future of American politics? We'll explore those questions in part two, so stay tuned.
One thing that really stood out to me reading these articles is how freaked out people are about all this. There's a real sense of anxiety, about what this means for the country.
Totally. The Mary Sue uses some pretty strong language. They call Musk a fucking abomination.
Yeah.
And they talk about the cruel and barbaric agenda of the Trump regime.
Wow. Yeah, that's intense. It really shows how deeply people feel about this. They see all this power concentrated in the hands of one guy, this unelected billionaire, and it's unsettling.
Yeah, and remember that picture of Musk and Jeff Bezos having dinner with Trump at Mar-a-Lago?
Oh, yeah.
Like some kind of supervillain team up.
Right? It's like something out of a comic book.
Definitely plays into that fear of plutocracy. Like, are these billionaires going to start running everything? And NewsX talks about how this is affecting the political landscape, too. Democrats are obviously furious, but even some Republicans are starting to get nervous.
Yeah, it's causing a rift in the party. Some think Musk's a valuable asset, but others are worried about his motives.
And his unpredictability.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's not forget, Trump has a history of turning on people.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
So could we actually see a falling out between them?
It's definitely possible. Trump is all about his image. If he feels like Musk is making him look weak or overshadowing him, their little alliance could crumble pretty quickly.
So let's try to piece all this together. We've got this power imbalance, this controversial spending bill, the potential benefits for Musk, and this volatile personal dynamic between the two of them. What does the future hold for this whole strange relationship?
Well, one thing's for sure, it's going to be a wild ride. These are two of the most powerful and unpredictable people on the planet.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think this is a wake-up call for all of us. We can't just sit back and watch this happen. We need to be more aware, more critical, and more active in shaping the future.
So what can we do? Are we just pawns in their game?
No, not at all. We have a voice, and we need to use it. We need to demand transparency from our leaders, hold them accountable for their actions, and fight for the values we believe in.
It's easy to feel powerless when you see this kind of power dynamic.
I know, but we can't give up.
We need to stay informed, engage in the political process, and make our voices heard.
Absolutely. We have a responsibility to shape the future of our country.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about the potential impact of this whole Musk-Trump thing on specific industries. The BBC article mentions how SpaceX could benefit from government contracts, and Tesla could see less regulation.
Right.
But is that necessarily a good thing?
It's a tough question. On the one hand, it's good to have a president who supports innovation and entrepreneurship.
Sure.
But we also have to be careful about giving any one company or individual too much power.
That makes sense. And what about conflicts of interest? If Musk is advising Trump on policies, that directly benefit his companies.
That's a huge red flag. We need transparency. We need to know who's influencing these decisions.
And are those decisions really in the best interest of the public?
Exactly.
The BBC article also talks about Trump's tax cuts for corporations and the wealthy.
Which is a whole other debate. Will it help the economy or just make inequality worse?
Right. And what about the environment? Musk is big on renewable energy, but Trump has rolled back a lot of environmental regulations.
Yeah, could this alliance actually hurt the fight against climate change?
Scary thought.
Definitely a lot of potential downsides.
This whole Musk-Trump thing is so complicated.
It's like a political thriller.
And we're all caught up in it.
But remember, we're not just passive observers.
We have a role to play.
We can make a difference.
So what can we do?
First of all, we need to stay informed. Read reputable news sources. Fact-check everything.
Don't just believe everything you see on social media. And we need to get involved in the political process.
Vote. Contact your elected officials. Join advocacy groups.
Make your voice heard.
We also need to support investigative journalism and whistleblowers, people who can hold power accountable.
It's clear that this Musk-Trump alliance could really change the American political landscape.
For better or for worse.
But it's up to us to make sure those changes are for the better.
We can't be complacent.
We need to be engaged, informed, and active participants in our democracy.
The future is in our hands.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. And honestly, a little bit unsettling.
I know, right?
But I think it's important to have these conversations, even if they're uncomfortable.
We need to face these challenges head on.
Okay, so we've talked about the power dynamics, the controversies, all the stuff surrounding this Musk-Trump thing.
Right.
But let's step back for a second. What does this all mean for, like, the bigger picture? What kind of precedent does this set?
You know, it's interesting because we usually think of power as being connected to elected officials, like the government.
Right, the traditional way of doing things.
Exactly. But Musk represents a different kind of power. Financial, technological, social media. It all blends together.
So are we saying that money equals political power now?
Well, it's not that simple. But think about how Musk influenced that spending bill. It wasn't through traditional lobbying, it was public pressure and his direct line to Trump.
So it's like this backdoor way of influencing things?
Exactly, and that makes it hard to hold people accountable.
Right, because it's all happening behind closed doors.
Exactly.
And it's not just about Musk and Trump, it's about this trend of tech billionaires using their money and their reach to shape the world.
They control the platforms we use, the data that shapes our lives, even the future of work and transportation.
It's kind of scary when you think about it.
It is, but I think it's a wake-up call. We need to be more aware, more critical. We can't just sit back and let this happen.
So what can we do?
We need to demand transparency from our leaders. We need to hold them accountable.
And we need to make sure technology serves humanity.
Exactly, not the other way around.
I think this whole Musk-Trump thing has been really eye-opening.
It's shown us that the rules of the game are changing.
And we need to adapt.
We need to be more informed, more engaged.
We can't just be passive observers.
The future is literally being shaped right now.
And it's up to us to make sure it's a future we want to live in.
Do we want a world run by a handful of billionaires? Or do we want a world where everyone has a voice?
That's the question we all need to be asking ourselves.
And it's not about choosing sides. It's about taking control of our own destiny.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive.
Definitely a lot to think about.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, the future is in our hands.
And that's a wrap for today's video. We hope you enjoyed the journey with us. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with all our latest content. A huge thanks to the makers at Boundaries Edge for bringing this to life. Be sure to check out the channel at Boundaries Edge for more exciting videos and deep dives. Until next time, keep pushing your boundaries to the edge.